Hello and welcome to the New York Film Academy Hour. I'm so excited because today we have the chair of acting from the Los Angeles School. It's Lynda Goodfriend. We're going to tell you more about her right after this.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hello, class. I'm Joelle Smith.
And I'm Pegarad.
And we are so excited because today we have Lynda Goodfriend in the studio. If you know Lynda Goodfriend, you do. She's mentored her role in history when she played Lori Beth Cunningham, Kim, and Ginger on Happy Days. She's appeared in Pretty Woman, Beaches with Bette Midler and Barbara Hershey. Goodfriend is in the studio tonight talking about all of the great roles that she's played, and of course her acting techniques and skills and what she brings to the New York Film Academy. We are so excited to have you here. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
It's scary that you said everybody knows me, because I get letters from people that send me birthday cards and I don't know them. Okay, that's nice.
That is both sweet and a little terrifying.
Scary.
Yeah. Anna Kendrick once received a diamond ring in the mail from a stranger, and she was like, "I can't keep this. It's weird." So she just threw it out.
Wow.
Okay, where does she live? I'm going through her trash.
Well, we start every show with the same question, which is, when did you know you were in love with movies?
I'll try to make this short. I was 5, and my sister was 6, and it was the first time we went to the movies. And my mother gave us each a quarter. This is a long time ago, just so you know. There was no television yet, scary as that was, or at least in our house. Each of us got a quarter, and it was like the most money I ever had in my life. And so she dropped us off in front of this place with the marquee, and my sister said, "We're going to the movies." I said, "Okay." So, I'm holding on to my quarter for dear life, and she says, "Well, give the lady the quarter so you can get a ticket." I'm going, No, I'm not giving up my quarter. She said, No, trust me, it's going to be good. So I gave my quarter, got the ticket, we got jujubes. We go in there, and the movie was The Fly. Black and white. And all I remember was that it was this great dark theater, and this picture of this man in a doctor's suit with this huge fly head comes out of this machine, and the rest of the movie I was under the seat, pretty much whole movie. But I loved it. Something about that experience in the dark, something magical, exciting I'd never seen before. I just love movies. And then the second movie I remember was in color. It was The Big Top, something like that, a circus movie, and I wanted to run away to the circus. And that was it. I mean, I love movies. When I lived in New York, I would find any excuse to just go by myself to the movies whenever I had a chance. So
I love
the
it.
movies.
Do you remember your first professional acting experience?
Yeah. Acting let me go back. I started out as a singer-dancer and then kind of brought acting into it. And when I moved to New York, my first job was doing the can in some theater in New Jersey.
Wow.
And that was my first paid job.
Are we talking like the old school Southwest, frilly skirts and everything?
Oh yeah, the whole thing. It was I don't know. I don't even remember the place, but that was I felt like I came to New York to do this, and I booked a job. And it did go up from there, thank goodness.
Can you tell us about when you were first bitten by the acting bug?
Bitten. I thought you was like, there's animals in here. Yeah, I'll tell you this story again, hopefully short. I was 15, and I loved acting, and I was in high school acting, and a few friends of mine, we were going, had an opportunity to go to a very famous acting school for the summer, and my parents let me go, and that summer I tried to learn to smoke, and I dyed my hair red. Neither of them worked. So nice and easy isn't nice and easy. But I was there for the whole summer, and at the end of the summer we had a very famous director from Broadway to critique us. So we got up on stage and did our work and our scene, and he would give everybody a critique.
Who is the director?
I'm not going to say his name.
Okay.
He directed one of the longest running shows on Broadway. And so I got up and I did my thing, and I stood there waiting for my critique, and he goes, "You're a terrible actress. Get off the stage. You should never act." And I was crushed. I was 15. I was crushed. And so I, picked up my things and my heart, and I ran out of there crying. And I said, okay, well, I guess I'll just be a professional dancer, because I really love to do that and sing. So I became a professional dancer. Years later, I'm doing summer stock and off Broadway and off and Broadway, and I was doing these little parts between the musical numbers, and some people said, you know, you're a really good actress on those little parts. Did you ever think of acting? And I said, well, yeah, I did. Somebody said, here, take this name, go study with this person. And it was Lee Strasberg, and I studied with Lee, and that was it. Then, you know, eventually I said, that's really what I want to do. So don't ever tell anybody you can't do something.
It's cruel.
You did summer stock with John Travolta.
Yep.
Tell us about that.
It was great. Pennsylvania. We were doing musicals there, and it was, you know, it was like the old movies where we're literally out in some small town in Pennsylvania with a dinner theater, but the whole town would go. And we did several musicals in the summer. He was, I think, 18, and it was great. But I remember the moment I saw him on stage, and he was in the chorus. You know, we were all in the chorus, but did little, you know, small parts. And I remember saying to my girlfriend, that kid's going to be a star. He had so much charisma on stage. Unbelievable. I mean, you just couldn't take your eyes off of him. That was before, then he went on to Broadway to Grease and Welcome Back, Kotter and everything else. But he had, I think, 5 brothers and sisters. They had grown up in this. They had done dinner theater, summer stock since they were 6 years old. Wow. You know, he'd had acting training, dance, singing training. It wasn't like it happened overnight. He worked really hard, and it hit probably when he was like 20 or something, 19, 20. But just so much charisma and magic and talent, just amazing talent.
You say charisma and talent and magic, and it makes me think of these early days of Broadway. And I'm curious, what is it like? Kind of, I feel like it's such a dreamy, romantic, or at least romanticized Broadway, moment of being a chorus girl on Broadway.
No, it was. It was my dream. That's what I went to do. And you know, at the time, it's, you know, I'm sure it's different now, but at the time, if you were working on a Broadway show, everybody in your circles of dance, musical theater, everybody knew that you were. Mm-hmm. It was very special because you didn't have to go out of town for a job. You could just take the bus or the subway home at night, and you were in a show. And it was great. It was a very, very fortunate thing to do. And it's 8 shows a week, and it's a lot of work, but it was great.
Oh, wow.
It was just great. Yeah.
How has Broadway changed now in your eyes?
You know, I haven't seen any out of New York, too many shows lately, but to me, what there's such a reversal, because at the time, if you did Broadway, if you were, you know, an actor, singer, dancer, and did Broadway, you didn't go to Hollywood. You didn't do television. You didn't do commercials. That was so beneath you. Theater was very respected. And now what I see is that they love to get television stars and film stars for Broadway because it's a guaranteed audience. So it's almost the reversal now, is that you go to Hollywood so you can do a Broadway show. Wow. And that's where I see a lot has changed. So, and I guess they pay more now, probably, too. I'm sure they do. I was living high off of $350 a week back then, you know.
Well, those Hamilton tickets, boy, oh boy.
Right? My goodness.
Well, I'll tell you, we were, you know, top show, and for musicals, you paid more. Front, you know, center row orchestra seats were $10.50, and they raised it to $17.50. And we go, nobody's going to come for that. Wow. It's like, I think we're going to be out of business. And the prices kept going up and going up. And yeah.
Yeah, it's like an ArcLight movie ticket now.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, please. It's like, you know, crazy. It's crazy.
I'd love to pay that.
Yeah.
What was it like for you? You were talking about transitioning in television. What was it like for you making the transition from Broadway to TV?
I guess I was fortunate. I've been fortunate many, many times of my life. But, you know, I decided after, you know, pretty good career on Broadway that I really wanted to act, because I'd been going to my acting class. That's what I want to do. And in New York, you know, casting directors or agents would say, well, you sing and dance, you can't talk. You know, you either sing and dance or you talk. You can't do both.
Huh.
And it was very, you know, put in pigeonholes back then. So I said, okay, well then I'm going to just leave, and I'm going to LA, and I'm going to act, and I'm not going to tell anybody that I do any of that other stuff. So I came out, and I, you know, got my first job waitressing, like most people. Yeah. And then I, you know, had my picture with the casting director, and I got an opportunity to audition for a part on Laverne and Shirley. So I went in there and to audition, and I'm standing there with 4 other girls who are a lot taller, blonder, and bigger than I was, and I'm thinking, I'm not right for this role at all. And the next day they called me and they said, well, we booked you on a show. I said, well, you must have the wrong person, because I wasn't right for that. And they said, no, it's the same casting director as a show called Happy Days. And they said you were very right for another part that they were, casting. So I got my first guest star on that. And then they brought me back for 3 different characters. And then they were casting, it's a long story, then they were casting another series, and they said, well, do you dance at all? I said, well, just a little, because I didn't want to get pigeonholed. So we're doing a show called Blansky's Beauties. It's about dancers in Vegas.
Yeah.
So I got cast for that, and it was great. It was a great time, and we did, dancing numbers with elephants and gold bikinis, and it was well beyond his time, and lasted for about a year. And then after that, and by the way, I quit my waitressing job. I said to the producer, do you think I can quit my waitressing job? He said, yeah, I think it's okay now. So then, and it was at Little Tony's, right down on Lancashire, was my very first job. And, hardcore waitresses working till 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I got, they wanted to audition for a role of Lori Beth for Ron Howard's girlfriend. So I auditioned with Ron, and I got that. And then I stayed on there for about 8 years. So that was nice.
Goodness.
It was very nice. It was wonderful people. It was great.
What was it like being a part of something so huge?
At the time, I don't know that we were aware of how big it was. I mean, now it's such a piece of history.
Right.
But I joined this show it was in season 4, and we lasted 11 years. So we didn't know that it was going to last 11 years. At the time, it was the first year, and this was different. Television was so different back then. The first year, it did okay, nothing great, but the network said, let's give it a second season, let's give it a try. And the second year, Henry Winkler really popped out of it. And it was only by the graciousness of Ron Howard, who it was his show, that stepped aside and let Fonz be the star of the show, really. Right. And the two of them are, of course, great friends and worked so well together. But, that's when the show really then started taking off, when the Fonz popped to the forefront of the show and became very popular.
And this was a 3-camera series, right?
Yeah, it was 3-camera.
What is that kind of working with that much equipment and occasionally live audiences, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, I was going to say, for me, it was such an easy transition, because shooting sitcom is so different than 3 cameras, so different than single camera, because sitcom is shot like a play. We shot like a proscenium, and you're kind of standing there next to each other, so you're on camera with 2-shot, and it's in sequence, so it's front to back. You have a curtain call, you have an audience. It's very much like a play. So it wasn't a hard transition, because I was used to that. But the first time I ever did it, I didn't, I had never done anything on camera, really. And I was doing a scene with Ron Howard, and the director was yelling at me, get in a 2-shot. So I'm going, I don't know what that is.
Oh, no.
And so Ron, the kind person he just grabbed me and held me over by his shoulder. He says, just stay here, don't move. I said, okay. And I learned, and I learned comedy. I never thought, I was studying, method acting, Strasberg. I thought I was going to be the next Meryl Streep, and there's already a great one, so I didn't have to do that. And somebody said, you should do comedy. You look like you should do comedy. I said, I don't do comedy. And so I got a comedy show, and so I took some comedy classes, because then I found out I really love comedy. But I had to learn. It's harder than drama.
Yeah.
So much harder.
Absolutely. Faster and you trying to...
Timing, everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And have very ridiculous moments sometimes be genuine to you in the moment. I know can be challenging. We actually have somebody in the chat. Hi, Felix Alvarez. Thank you for joining us. And as you mentioned, you're taking classes. He wants to know, who were your acting mentors? You mentioned Lee Strasberg. Was there anyone else?
I started with Strasberg. I studied with another man named Sandy Meisner, both very famous.
Yes.
And then in New York, I studied with a man named David LeGrand, who had studied with Strasberg. And he'd tell us stories about how Marilyn Monroe used to sit next to him in their acting class. And I really, really, I'd say David was probably my mentor of anybody. And there's another instructor in our program that coincidentally I met him out here. he was teaching. I said I could use you on my faculty, and we had studied together in New York back then. And I said, and he says the same thing. Everything that comes out of my mouth as a teacher is really what I learned from David. I mean, it's still Strasberg, it's still his technique. But Lee would say, method, I don't know what method is. And we're going, well, you kind of invented the method. But yeah, I'd say, you know, they were all different and all had something great to offer.
So if we didn't subscribe to Method, what was his goal for you guys?
No, he was teaching. That's what he was teaching. But he didn't want to call it the method. He says, no, it's the work. You just do the work.
Copy,
you know?
okay.
But it was all the same sense memory and emotional recall and all the same things.
It sounds like he was one of those who's like the praise and the prestige around it. That's not what he was interested in. No. And I think I don't know, how do you feel as an actor about that kind of approach? Do you believe it's all in the work as well?
Yeah, and it's you know, we were talking about charisma and magic and all of that. Those things are important because that's something that the audience attracts to, but you can't exhibit that if you don't know what you're doing. And I am of the belief that technique is very important so that you don't have to use it. You learn it so that it's in you and you have that to draw on, but it gives you a solid playing field, and that allows you to have the freedom to be charismatic and magical and improvise when you feel, and the confidence to do that.
I think it was Al Pacino who said that he relies on the method because there are moments where real human beings go blank. He's like, well, you're not thinking anything, you're not doing anything, you're just living in this moment. He says that is where real acting exists.
Right, and you need technique to get there. That's the thing. You know, you start with that, and the better actors don't think about technique. And I tell, you know, actors in our school, we're here to help you find your process. Some people feel that Meisner gets them there, method gets them there, and I said, when you're an experienced actor, you won't think. You'll be there. You'll just get there, and you won't think of what it takes to do that. It's like a little kid. You don't think about what muscles you use to get up off the floor, you know. But a little kid who's never walked is thinking about, how do I do this? So it's the same concept. At some point, you've done it enough so that you don't have to break it down into what technique am I going to use.
For those who probably don't know what Meisner is, can you just give me a brief?
It's just a different. In my acting lesson, there's this guy named Stanislavski in Russia, and he thought, well, you know, acting needs to be more realistic. It was very representational up until then. And, you know, there's a writer named Chekhov who's writing very realistic, emotional work, and the actors weren't really able to perform that in the styles that they were using. So it's more of, I feel it first, and because of what I feel, I do things out here and say things out here. So, you know, from that school, you know, Method, Meisner, they both broke off from that. They both have their different philosophies. Meisner's more of, I'm working in the moment, off of my partner, and Method is more of, I'm working on, you know, what I have from my past to draw from. And, you know, there are two schools. I think they both work beautifully together. So, because you need both. You know.
We talked a little bit before the show. I asked you if you had any projects coming up, and you said, I'm dedicating myself full time to teaching. This is what I do now. And I'm wondering, first of all, how did you get into teaching? And second of all, what is it that kind of sustains you through teaching?
You know, I don't teach now as the chair. I tried it in the beginning, and it was, my head was splitting with trying to teach and run a department. And our department has grown, which is great. But I started teaching when my daughter was born, 1983. And I'd been on TV for 10 years, and I just really needed a break. And somebody said, why don't you teach? I said, I don't know. I thought about it, and I started teaching 3 students. I decided I liked it. I got more. Eventually, I opened my own school. I had 2 schools, one in South Bay, one up here. And I loved teaching. It was something that I could use all that I learned from my instructors, and some of it I never had been able to use professionally. You know, I had been doing Ibsen and Williams and Shakespeare and all of this in training, but I never really got to use that as a performer. And I could use all of that and give it to somebody else. And there's a point in your life, and I don't think you're there yet, but there's a point when you're older when you go, now I want to pass it on. There's a desire to pass it on from all that you've learned because it feels more satisfying to do that. And so I opened my own school, and I had my own school for 15 years, opened up a theater. I started managing actors. And so I did that for a very long time. And I said just like, I have never, ever been bored with acting. It's always a new discovery. You could do the same script for a year and a half, and it's always a new discovery because it is. Everything is in the moment. You change as a person, you're going to change as an actor. So I don't know. It's never got me bored.
What's the biggest misconception that students have going into acting?
Great question. A couple things. One is that it's easy. You know, well, I didn't know what else to do with my life, so I just thought I'd act.
Oh, gosh.
Acting is hard. It's the good ones, like any sport, anything else, the good ones make it look very easy. That's probably the biggest misconception. The other thing is, if I'm a really good actor, I'll get an agent and manager, and I'll be on a series or in a movie. That's not always true. So the hard thing, I think, for actors, and I deal with students with this, is that most of your life, it's... you know, I do something and I get rewarded for it. And, you know, I clean my room, I get an allowance, I study hard, I make good grades, I get to graduate. In acting, you can be a really good actor, you can put your heart into it, you can, you know, work on the script, you can coach with somebody, you can be so prepared, and you go in there and they don't like the color of your hair, so you don't get the job. So there's no equality, and that's the hardest thing I think for actors to get, is that it's a toss of the dice. But if you don't deliver when you're in the room, you're not even in the game.
Right.
You know, you have to do that. It's not that you just show up. But when I was managing actors, I literally had, you know, one big lead of a series, and I had the executive producer said, I loved him. He was the best guy in the room, but they didn't like his hair. Like, really? Let's change the hair. Right. But they don't always think that way. Or somebody reminds me, they, you know, at a final network call, when it comes down to we've seen everybody and this is who we're casting for the family, this is the look we want. And as a result, I do ultimately believe everything's fair, but I had actors as a manager that some of them are very, very talented and just don't hit because they haven't waited long enough for that one person to get it, and others that just keep their nose to the grindstone. Talent-wise, they're hard workers, but there's no magic there. But they work, and they're working actors. So you just have to, if you want to do it, you just have to keep doing it. There is no other way around it.
And as you say, it's in the work. And it seems like, you know, going to class, and once you get your method down, once you know your techniques and you have those skills put away and you're ready to go out into the working world, what advice do you have to those just getting started? Where should they look for their first roles?
Everywhere. You know, literally. It was interesting because my daughter was an agent and now a manager, and she was telling me about a new client, and they, you know, self-produced, acted, and wrote a very short film, put it up on Vimeo, and the next day she had phone calls from producers interested in it, had a phone call from a very big director who wanted to see this girl for a role, and she was the only one, and he cast her in this role. And this was just 24 hours.
Wow.
You know? Yeah. So you have to self-market yourself. You have to be ambitious. You have to knock on every door. You have to put yourself out there. As you know, one agent said, I make 10%, you make 90. You have to do 90% of the work. And I don't think actors starting out understand that you just have to keep going out there, get in student films. I mean, we have so many students, filmmakers, actors, everybody doing very good quality films. So you not only get material to show, you get experience, and nothing can pay for experience. You know, it's just, I ride horses. It's time in the saddle. Every time you're in front of the camera, you become a better actor. You know, and they have to be willing to put in the time. That's they think it's instant and easy. It's not.
Right.
So if they're spending part of their time performing, part of their time rehearsing, and part of their time advertising themselves or putting themselves out there, making the connections. Is there? You say you ride horses. I'm interested to see if there's what else should people be doing? Because I know a lot of art is influenced by things outside of the art. Like for example, Grace Coddington over at Vogue, she's a photographer, and one of my favorite things that she's ever said is that you never close your eyes. She's like, if I'm just in the car, I have to keep my eyes open. I have to always be looking for different angles so that I can bring that back to my photography. Is there things students can be doing to improve their work?
Yeah, I mean, just on the surface, it's reading scripts, reading screenplays, watching good actors, watching every film. Look at what good actors are doing. Look what good films are. Know filmmakers, know different styles. Watch period pieces. But overall, as an actor, you really, you're examining yourself. You're examining life, and I think people are the most fascinating things on this planet. And, as an actor, you have to observe. You have to watch people, listen. You have to be really observant to what's around you, because that's what art is. Art is going to show a piece of life. And if you're closed off and if you're always on your phone and you're not out there seeing what else is going on, learn history, learn about the news, what's going on in the news. It's being aware of what's happening in the world, I think, makes you a better actor.
Do you believe in, because some people say they either have it or they don't. Do you believe in that, or do you think that could be learned and taught? And
I think you either have the charisma or you don't.
Okay.
That I have seen. And that doesn't come along all the time. And you do not have 100 actors, good actors in a room, and 100 have charisma, that it factor. That's something like a Brad Pitt,
Right.
where you can't take your eyes off of him. John Travolta had that. But you can learn the craft and be a well-crafted actor, and that's probably ultimately more valuable, because I don't care how magical you are. Ultimately, you might get you the first job, but you have to get the second, third, and the 75th job, and that's craft. That's knowing what you're doing.
Love that answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been watching Betty and Joan's Feud on FX. It is one of my favorite shows. And there's a moment later in the season, Betty is older in age and she just wants to work. Like, she's just dying to do the work, and she can't get these roles. And so she starts taking anything. And they make this comment that it sort of tanks her because she was not selective about her roles. They say she should have been more like Hepburn and been selective and taken her time and made good roles for herself. In today's world, we have so much media and so many places in which to get yourself out there, and it's very competitive because people who've never taken an acting class, who have never dedicated themselves to learning the craft of acting, have 20,000 followers and are getting cast because people think that, if they have followers, we'll get money for the movie, and they're making business decisions like that. How selective should beginners be in their roles?
It's a hard question to answer. I don't think they should do anything naked, because that will follow you everywhere.
Sure.
Unless you get paid a lot of money for it. I'm just kidding about that, by the way. But no, I think, I do think you have to, in the beginning, you want to work. You want to get experience. It has to be legitimate. But again, student films. I had clients who did student films when they were starting out, and they were really good roles. So I think you have to be willing to work a lot at small things, big things, but as you grow and now you actually have some reputation or have a body of work under you, then I do think you have to be more selective and do things. And to me, there are several reasons to do a role, and this is how I handled my clients as a manager. The money. It's not, there are reasons to do something for the money. The director, the rest of the cast, the production company you're working with. Is it a studio? Are they going to be doing a lot of projects? Or something that really you do for the love. I love this role. There's no money, no big director, low budget, but I've always wanted to do a role like this, and I can't stop thinking about it. So you have to choose, and it's not always, most of those things do not mesh at the same time.
Sure.
So you have to choose, but there are different reasons to do different projects, I think.
Absolutely. Give us some advice, like some basic, very broad advice for auditioning. If you're just starting out auditions, what are the key elements you need to know before you step into that room?
Okay. If it's commercials, energy. You got to be personable, energy, be ready to rock and roll, improvise, be yourself, be kind of wild and crazy. Okay. If it's something that's a theatrical, sitcom, TV, a drama, a film, be prepared. Be prepared. Coach with somebody, run it with somebody, and when you go in, have a plan. Almost always, actors go in going, well, I'm not really going to make that choice because what if they want that choice? And I'm not sure, so I kind of go in with my little gray. I won't really commit. I'll do it kind of halfway so I won't make mistakes, and then wrong. Commit 120% to what you think this should be, because that way they can see your talent. And they can then say, great, I love that. Let's do it a different way. And then you go, okay, great. But if they don't see anything, if they see gray, they don't go, well, they can't act. I don't see what I can do with you. So it's always make a 100% commitment to what your choice, and make acting choices. Most people don't. They're so afraid. They just want to be good. The truth is, most casting directors, and casting directors will tell you this, they don't know what they want. They know when they see it.
Yeah.
They want you to show me what this role is. And most actors don't realize that. They're going, I hope I get it right. I hope I do what they want me to. They have no clue.
Yeah.
So you've got to show
That's a
them the
great
role.
point.
I always told my actors, I said, if Robert De Niro was auditioning for this, how would he do it? Would he be careful? Would he worry about making mistakes? Would he worry about getting all the lines right? No. He would do it with gusto. He'd do it 120% as Robert De Niro would choose to do it.
You say worrying about the lines. The chat has another question for you. Improv during takes. Is there a limit? Should people just go for it? Do you need to consult with your director first?
So doing improvising takes, or
I guess maybe during auditioning. Like if you're auditioning and you have an idea of the character and you want to
improvise it.
Yeah.
It's no.
Stick to the script.
Because the producer or director might also be the writer and values those words. The writers in TV, the writers are going to be in the room. Most of the writers are also the producers of the show. They don't want you changing the script. And remember, they, especially sitcom, they're getting paid a lot of money to do what they do because they do it well. If you try changing it, they're going, first of all, not as good as I did it, and you're risking that. Well, how can I trust them on the set? You know, there are shows where the director will say, for an audition, you know what, be loose with it. You know, I know some stand-up comics who also are actors and audition for sitcoms. Be loose with it. Add whatever you want to add. Then, yes, go ahead and do it. But if you don't, stick to the script. You know, if you forget a line, that's different. But try to stick to the script. It's very important.
You're just like rewriting the show.
Well,
Rude.
well, I will tell you, that brings in one quick story about Robin Williams,
Yes,
which
please.
was
Yes.
we were in improv class together, and because I was trying to learn to be funny, since I was on a sitcom, and he was great, so talented, and I got in the advanced class because I was on actually 2 TV shows at the same time, and I'm going, I know nothing. It was embarrassing. I'd go home and cry every night. I hated improv because I couldn't do it. And here were these mega improvisers. Robin would get up. He would either be brilliant or horrible. He did not edit. No, he was fearless. Sometimes it was totally, go, this is embarrassing. It bombed. But the other times it was brilliant. I many times had to be up on stage with him, and that was embarrassing because he would just talk, and you couldn't get anything in, and you're going, okay, I just stand here and be embarrassed. But he couldn't get arrested as an actor because he couldn't stick to a script.
Oh.
Even when we would play with scripts in improv, the director, Harvey Limit, would say, stick to the script. He just would go off on it. So they were casting, I was on a show called Happy Days. They were casting a character called Mork.
Yes.
They could not cast the role. It was down, they shot the show on Friday, and we're down to Wednesday now. And they brought in all these actors. They couldn't find the actor to play this role. So I mentioned something to, the late executive producer of the show, Gary Marshall. And I told him about this guy. He's brilliant. He's funny. Hard time with the script, but he's very funny. And so the next day I see Robin in the office reading. He did the audition standing on his head, totally went off the script, and the writers are there writing down everything. Did you get that?
Amazing.
So they got him. here is somebody who got that but also he could rewrite the script probably as funny as they could, brilliantly, and they cast him as a guest star. Big hit, gave him a series, Mork and Mindy, but he later learned to stick to a script. But just, they trusted him, but he stuck to who he was, and it did work for this. That's why I say, somebody will find that you are the right person for this. You do have to play by some of their rules, but then, he's on the set and he's running around, they give him direction, go there, then come down the stairs. And so this old cameraman, Sam, he's like Cecil B. DeMille, I think, and he's standing there. We were filmed at the time, film camera here, and Robin comes down the stairs, zips over here, goes to the ceiling, somersaulting, runs off, and Gary Marshall goes, "Hey, Sam, did you get that?" And Sam goes, "He didn't come by here." So they added the fourth camera just for Robin, and then you have now sitcom doing 4 cameras.
Amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
You just got so much information.
Oh, I know, I'm like talking.
That's amazing.
But one person can change the industry. I mean, just change everything.
Well, here's what I just learned in there. We had the head animator of the genie from Aladdin come in. He did the little Moana figure from The Rock in the movie Moana. Okay. And he talks about watching Robin do the voiceover and how he would just imitate his... So I like hearing that at the start of his career, writers were inspired by him, and even in the middle, at the height when he's doing Aladdin and he's playing the genie, that people are still inspired by his performance. 2, you kind of gave Robin Williams his foot in the door.
Yeah, and this is what I say, it's like, if you're in this business, especially actors, you can't be jealous of each other. You've got to support each other. Everybody's in this together. There is no competition. There is room for everybody to succeed. And that's one thing I had to deal with the actors that I managed, is like a lot of jealousy. I'm going, it wasn't your role. There is room for you to do that. I've even had some actors say to somebody, "You know what, I went up for this role, I wasn't right. Why don't you call your agent? You should go in for this." That's generosity, and that's how it should work, because you never know who's going to be next to you in class or who's going to help you out, so
good karma will come around.
it will. No, it will. I think so. You have to help each other out.
Absolutely.
We've got just a little bit more time. I want to ask you very quickly, in building these relationships, as you say, I know a lot of people are kind of nervous to start relationships outside. Like, so meeting with other actors is one thing. You might meet a director in a rehearsal or something.
Right.
But I've heard that building good relationships with actors and casting directors is really important. But how do you do that when you're just kind of going in front of them and doing a little song and dance and then leaving? How do you cultivate those relationships?
Well, it's hard to build relationships with casting directors outside of going in reading for them. I mean, and so how you do build a relationship on that end is, obviously you have to get in the door with them. I've had casting directors say that they've have actors just drop off a picture and resume, old school, and they like the picture and resume, and they call him in. Just, hey, why not? They made the effort, let me see what he does. But if you go in for a top casting director, that casting director, believe me, will cast other projects, and they have casting director friends.
Yeah.
So more than many times, I've had somebody say, well, Francine Meisler recommended your client to me. I'm looking for this thing. I told them about your client. So you might be right for maybe 1 out of 50 roles, but if every time you go in, if a casting director likes you, they will bring you in for things even that maybe you're not exactly right for, but they like you. They know they can, get a good performance out of you, and they want to give it a shot with the director to say, look, try this person, not right. I can't tell you how many times as a manager, the person who got the role was totally different from the description in the script, because they liked that actor. They said, I like him, let's make it work for this actor. So the good relationship is about going in prepared, doing a good job, not wasting their time, and, coming up to what they expect of you.
Excellent. Lynda, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I feel like we're always digging for the magic secret. Yes. Like how do we get on? And I love that today we learned, like, it's just put in the work. It's just do the work, grind hard, come prepared, and put yourself out there.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to give you that first shot. You really don't.
It's excellent. Thank you so much. We learned so much from you today.
It's a history lesson.
You guys, if you have more questions, comments, you can always in the chat below on iTunes. Make sure you guys give us a rating. Let us know what you're thinking, who you'd like to see come on the show, subjects you'd like to talk about. If you guys want to talk about anything, we will try to find somebody, bring them in here to inform you and give you guys that kind of insight, because that's what we're here for. In the meantime, we'll be back. If you guys checked in a couple weeks ago, Peg interviewed Peter Rayner about his amazing career as a film reviewer. He's going to come in and do an entire class just about Marlon Brando next week, and he has got some really specific thoughts and some great insight into this iconic figure of American cinema. So I'm so excited to talk to Peter Rayner about that next week. We'll be right back here at 4 o'clock. We might be earlier. Check the schedule, but we will be back here next week. I want to say thank you so much for joining us, as always, here at the New York Film Academy Hour. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Kristian Harloff, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.